CEOS catching our support range, followed by a huge 21% upside thrust. Let's go ahead and validate what could be happening for the following sessions. What is up, you guys? Thank you so much for stopping by once again. This is ARCa coming at you with a CEOS, technicals, raw price action, and statistical thread of analysis on this Hump Day Wednesday. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share the video with a friend so that you and them could consider joining our trading community in Discord called ARCa Bulls. With that said, let's dive right into the charts. Okay, so we are looking at CEOS on the daily chart here, and this particular chart is actually the one that we looked at in the live stream the last time we streamed, right, just a few days ago. So we were talking about a potential drop to this demand zone right down here. Okay, so the demand zone range was between 309 and about 271. The reason we have this demand zone here is for a few reasons, right? So first of all, yes, we had a confluent target here with one of the Fibonacci ratios. We also have the bottom side of the support line from this ascending channel, macro channel, right? And we also have the support from the newly converted resistance into support of this purple descending channel. Okay, so the purple descending channel is a macro scale reversal channel. Okay, so this is actually suggesting an overall price action readjustment. So meaning that we would potentially come to, continue on to the upside after validating this as a valid form of support. So we actually did come down. We came right short of it, right? But still within the range that we were looking at. Right. So and then we actually got that 21% move to the upside. Very curious things here. So I want to go ahead and touch on the statistics and the probabilities for this because there is a very nice setup happening on the daily time frame. Okay, so and this is actually the same setup that we looked at prior to this run up here. Okay, so this run up was essentially the result of actually it was 360% to the upside based on a statistical backtest of then it was 30 tests and 24 were correct. To the upside. We had an 80% upside accuracy and we had about 156% to the upside over the span of about 23.2 days. Okay, so everything drastically improved based on this correct iteration, right? So what are the conditions to that iteration? Well, let's go ahead and touch on that now. So anytime that volatility represented by this indicator BBWP has expanded into critical expansion, like right up here, and we've actually pair this with stochastic momentum with an upside pivot, we have had a pretty substantial move several times throughout the entire trading history. Okay, so what I have done is that anytime that criteria has met, I've taken the duration of the iteration, the upside thrust of the iteration, and the amount of times that volatility versus momentum have guessed the upside correctly versus incorrectly. Okay, so these samples got us this data set here. Okay, so now we're looking at a total of 31 iterations, of which 25 now have been guessed correct. Okay, so now this entails an averaged upside accuracy of 80.64% with an average upside thrust of 161.82% over the span of just over 22 and a half days. This is proof of work right over here, you guys. So everything is updated. The last time we looked at this was on February 4th, right? So actually, I'm sorry, it was actually this move right over here. So February 4th was right over here. Yeah, so it was actually this move over here as a continuation from this iteration here. Okay, so very good stuff. All right, so now why I'm mentioning this now again is because CEOS has essentially reset the conditions or the criteria for this upside thrust to be able to happen. Okay, so now you can see that the moving average is actually approaching the critical volatility zone, which is within the 90 percentile of volatility. Okay, so you can see that the spectrum line, which is the volatility component itself, is within that volatility area now. Okay, so now, and please go ahead and notice that momentum is starting to pivot towards the upside. Okay, so these are essentially this is essentially the criteria or the conditions in order for us to kind of validate a move this large. Okay, so now that we did get this upside pivot here, we can actually start to kind of guess or apply the metric to the upside. So let's just go ahead and apply 161.82% to the upside from the opening of this candle, which is right when we got this upside on the momentum. Okay, so that's essentially the time that we have to take into consideration as a signal being fired. Okay, so let's just go ahead and apply a 161% move to the upside from the current price action. Okay, so I would preferably like for both of the moving average and the volatility component to be right within this area, right? I would definitely prefer that. But you can't always get what you want, right? So as the song says, and just go ahead and notice here that the percentile that we're currently sitting is at about 94%, which is very similar to this iteration here, where we made a 128 spot 80% move to the upside. Okay, and actually coming from a stochastic level that's slightly higher from where we're coming now. So it's very similar to this iteration here. Okay, so the price action is telling us that we would essentially reach back to the highs of that 60% move to the upside from the last iteration. So as you can see, the upside of this is actually taking us to 958, and the absolute highest that we reached was actually 977. Yeah, 977, as you can see there. Okay, so it's very curious that it would take us right to that level there. Another thing that we can do is actually take a fib from the current range high to the range low. Okay, so not just the day. So we'll just go ahead and take the last 2 days overall range high to range low with a Fibonacci retracement tool. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do that now and see if we even have enough juice to get up there. Okay, so the 4-spot 618 coming in at 939, and the suggestion from this is actually 958. So lots of correlation there. There's a lot of rhyming, and I like it a lot. Okay, so the probabilities are definitely within our favor. Okay, so now let me just go ahead and load up some SMAs and see what we have in store for this. Okay, so I wanted to see if there was anything in this area here other than the fact that we had that current high there. Nothing in the moving averages, but just go ahead and notice here that these candles are definitely all resistance within that range of about 950 something, right? All of these candles here as well. You can just take a look at the cursor all the way to the right over here. When I'm hovering over the price, you can see the price shifting there, right? So let me just go ahead and show you all these candles here. See the range, 952 right over there, right dead on the dollar from what we're looking at for a potential resistance, right? So yes, there is a lot of rhyming there. Please know that it's not going to be one candle all the way up to the upside if sentiment doesn't decide to do that by itself, right? So we have to play this by the rules and not by betting on FOMO or betting on a psychological component being applied to this. Okay, so everything is looking good for CEOS. So now let's go ahead and move on to the last part of the analysis, and this is going to be the RSI divergence. Okay, so what divergence is actually the opposition of price action versus momentum, and in this case, momentum represented by this indicator RSI, relative strength index. Okay, so as you can see here, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 drives of regular bullish divergence printed and validated now with an upside pivot. Okay, so this drawing here is actually just for you, this display here is for you to be able to see just what happens when we're getting that divergence call, right? So this is I was able to catch it, and this is essentially what we're looking at, and it's already validated towards that upside. So now let's go ahead and continue our validation and see if we can get a closer perspective as to what can happen for the following session. Starting off from, well, like always, let's start off with the 30-minute immediate short term. Okay, so the immediate short term is suggesting a massive upside continuation, and the RSI signal represented by this purple line, your 14-day simple moving average, is the pink line. Okay, so we're approaching the gravitational zone of the bull strength percentile. Okay, so that usually has us, that we can actually get gravitated right up to the upside into the overbought percentile. So that's looking very good. Please notice here that the 4-hour time frame has crossed above the 14-day simple moving average, which is a very bullish thing. And now it's in the gravitational zone of the bear strength percentile. Okay, so very likely this is going to face an upside continuation. Similar situation for the 8-hour time frame as well. Okay, so this is already looking good for almost the entire day tomorrow. All right, so now let's look at the daily time frame. Actually, let me see the 12-hour and see if there's any something. Okay, there could be a little bit of a pullback there, but and also a similar situation here with the daily, right? So now the thing here is that we're starting, I don't know if you can see this, right? But you can actually start to see the curvature of the 14-day simple moving average doing something like this, right? It looks like it's going to correct, which is a very good thing. Another thing to notice here is that, yes, usually this can serve as a point of resistance, just like it did here, just like it did right here, and then reject, right? But what I want you to notice here is the position of the RSI of the 14-day simple, okay? Because in here we were well within the gravitational zone of the overbought percentile, which means that we would get brought back down, and it definitely faced that gravity pull, right? So now the 14-day simple moving average is in the gravitational zone of the bear weakness percentile, okay? So that means that we could very likely succeed the 14-day simple moving average. We'll move upside of it and then convert this 14-day simple as a form of support alongside this gravitational zone. Okay, so that's looking very good too. Now, jumping in onto the bi-daily, I don't like these little pivots. They're not always so credible, right? So let's just look at the 3-day. Okay, very similar thing on the bi-daily and the 3-day, suggesting an upside, right? So what this is telling me basically is that all of the shorter time frames are essentially going to they're going to not manipulate, they're going to influence, they're going to influence the higher term time frame RSIs. Okay, so another thing to notice here is that the 5-day is landing right at the support right now of the 14-day simple moving average. Okay, so upon these shorter time frames suggesting or realizing the upside continuation of price action, then yes, we would be able to essentially convert or manipulate or influence, or they'll be in sympathy to the shorter time frames. Okay, bi-daily, 3-day and 5-day RSI would essentially pivot towards the upside. And if we can just take a quick look here, let's see what the 3-day. So 3-day is closing in 17 hours and 49 minutes. Very likely going to close tomorrow. Okay, so this would essentially correct our momentum towards the upside, and also we're contracting from the 3-day critical volatility zone. So this is looking very good. Okay, you guys, so I'm definitely expecting a pretty large upside move coming in for CEOS in the relative short term. Okay, so not the signal already fired. Okay, first of all, we did get that very nice quality hammer candle, and huge V reversal right here. So very nice, huge touch at the very bottom of our macro channel, which is only indicating the potential of a continuation to the upside for days and days and days. Okay, so this can be a very rocky road. Don't think for a second that this is just going to be one candle to the upside. Okay, please be very careful. Please remember, I'm not a financial advisor. Take whatever I do show and iterate within these videos as just a form of entertainment, as I cannot suggest for you to buy or sell any assets whatsoever. Okay, you guys, I need you to do your own due diligence and everything will be just fine. All right, let's see. Please refer to the links in the description below if you would like to join me in Twitter or join the community in the ARCa Bulls trading channel. Server. Okay, you guys. So with that said, I wish you well, a very good night, and I will catch you at the bell mañana. Adios.